Bye, bye, bye. Okay, so I've just finished recording a podcast for the Property Entrepreneur Hall of Fame. So I'm very privileged to have been invited into the Hall of Fame for Property Entrepreneur, which is a program I've been on for about 4 or 5 years now. So in this video, I'm going to run through the importance of personal branding, and particularly in property, and then also how you can increase your brand. Hi, it's Mo and welcome back to the property vlog. In this week's video, 3 reasons why brand is important in property and 7 ways to improve yours. Before we get started, I just want to clarify what we're talking about in terms of brand. We're talking about the way that other people perceive you and the way the market perceives you, the space that you own in the minds of other people. We're not talking about like logo or design or anything like that. Obviously that is a part of branding, but really what we're talking about here is how the market perceives you, and obviously that can be positive or negative, and that's what we're going to jump into. Okay, 3 reasons why brand is important in property. Number 1, increased sales. So a really strong brand can help you increase your sales. It really accelerates the know, like, trust process. It means you can put your prices up. It means people already know you before they come to you. It means you can sell more to more people. You can sell more to the same people, and you can put your prices up and keep them high if you've got a really good brand and a really good reputation. Number 2, decrease costs. Having a really good brand can help you actually decrease your costs. It can help you reduce your marketing costs, so you can keep your marketing costs low or lower because you're already well known and you've got a good reputation, you've got a lot of organic reach, that you don't actually have to spend as much on marketing to get the same types of clients. It can also allow you to access the services of service providers at a lower cost. So if you've got service providers and people that provide you services, for example, to your business, they will potentially want to work with you more, or they can take a bit of a view on their pricing because they want to work with you strategically because you've got a really good brand, versus them going to a company they don't really know much about. They don't know what the company stands for. They don't know what the brand of the company is. They don't know if it's like a strategic alignment for them or a fit. So there may be a bit of risk pricing in there. If you're a well-known brand, they know you, they like you, they trust you, you're more likely to be able to negotiate good terms with that service provider. Finally, on decreased costs, you can also potentially save money on salaries. So in a similar way to how service providers might take a view on working with you and might take a bit of a negotiation on how much they're willing to provide services to you for because you've got a good brand and a good reputation. This really extends to staff and team members as well. So your team members are likely to want to work with you more. They see it as a strategic benefit to their career or to their life, or they might see that you've got a really good culture, a really good brand that they want to work with, they want to be associated with. It may mean you can then not only recruit better talent, but also get them at a price where they've not sort of factored in, again, like a risk premium of, oh, I don't know if I want to work with this company, I'll probably do it, but it would just be sort of based on money. It's actually like, I really want to work for that company. I'm prepared to take less than a competitor might be offering because I can really see myself working with that company. I'm aligned to their brand. I know what their brand is about, and I want to be part of that team. And number 3 is just about making your business easier to run and enhancing the alignment and the focus of your team and your service providers and everyone that you work with. When you're really clear on what your brand is, what you stand for, the way the market perceives you, you can very clearly communicate that both internally to your team and also externally to your service providers, your clients, anyone that you work with. It's very, very easy to communicate what you do, and it's very easy to filter the types of people that you want to work with. Your team will say, actually, this client isn't necessarily on brand, I'm not sure we should be working with them, or this person is completely aligned to the brand, is there something that we can do on pricing to get them on board? And it's just a really, really good alignment piece to make sure the communication to your internal team is crystal clear, and also your external stakeholders know if they're providing services to your company, they know exactly what the standards of those services should be based on what your brand is. And just finally, on the making your business easy to run point, we've talked about sort of decreasing costs in terms of whether you've got to recruit staff or whether you've got to bring on service providers to service parts of your business. In terms of making the business easier to run, if people already know about you, they already know what you do, it's just a lot easier to find the right types of people that you need. So as well as the sort of financial benefit of, well, you might be able to negotiate a good deal with someone that already knows who you are and what you're about, and wants to work with you strategically, it will actually just be easier to find these types of people, so you won't spend as much time and as much money trying to find the right people and the people that you need. Okay, 7 ways to improve your brand. Number 1, website and brochure. So think of your website like a brochure online. Keep it super simple. You just want it to be a reference point that you can send the link to your whoever you're trying to communicate with, whether it's team members that you're trying to employ, and you might put it in the job description. You can send it to service providers, you can send it to clients. You just want it to be like an online brochure, sort of a portfolio showing some of your best work, and whereas your social media will be like regular updated new things that you're doing, news, events, stuff that you're running, very recent things. Your website can just be a static, effectively, like, think of it like a brochure, so someone can see exactly what you do, what you're about, what the history of the company is, and sort of get in contact with you. Don't over engineer it. A lot of the best websites are just literally a one-page website that you can just scroll down through all the vital information, and if people want further information or up-to-date information, you've got the contact information on there for people to get in touch with you. And then the second part of that is the brochure. So think of the brochure as like a sort of PDF version of some of the highlights from your website. Again, it's just an easy communication tool. You can consolidate everything, the most important things you think you've got on the website and the services you provide and the type of people you work with. Consolidate that down into a really simple brochure, and it's just something that you can send out on WhatsApp or you can send out on email when you're trying to communicate sort of what you do and what you're about. As a real life example, we've got one of these in KHP. In fact, we've got 2 brochures. So we've got one website says, this is KHP, this is who we are, this is what we're about, these are some of our projects, this is the team, etc. And then we've got 2 brochures, and then 90% of the brochure is exactly the same in both of the 2 brochures. So it's the team, it's pictures of past projects, it's information history about the company and stuff like that. And then the front part is tailored towards who we're actually sending that brochure to. So we've got an investor brochure, so a brochure that we send to investors. The first part of the brochure says, this is our investor offering. We've got 2 types of investor offering. We can either do sort of fixed interest rate stuff, or we can do a JV profit share type deal. This is the information, this is the risks involved. And then the rest of the brochure is the same as the other one. So that's the investor focused brochure. So if I'm speaking to investors, I'll send them that one. And then we've got a sort of a vendor brochure / other corporate brochure, which we would send if we didn't want to talk specifically about investing. We could just send to anyone and say, this is our company and this is what we do. This one we've actually sent to vendors. So when we're looking at sourcing sites and picking up sites, well, actually, if we're doing an off-market deal and we're direct to vendor, we actually send the vendor this brochure just so they can read through about our company. It doesn't confuse the matter that we're then talking about investors in the investor brochure. It's actually a separate one. Most of the brochure is exactly the same, but we've just got the front bit that just talks a bit more generically about the company rather than about investors. Number 2, get your social media set up. So you've probably got this already, but just really important to make sure you've got some presence on social media, and whatever you've got in terms of presence is updated regularly. So for us, we've got Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, we've got YouTube. I don't really use Twitter, but probably should. And I've got a TikTok account, which I've used a couple of times, but I don't really use it. I need to work on that one. The best thing is to have a couple that you're really sort of heavily focused on. So for us, it's mostly, the stuff we do is mostly YouTube and Instagram. And because we're doing property, obviously it's quite visual, so it works quite well on YouTube and Instagram. But also because we've got the business side of it and we talk to investors, we've also got LinkedIn as well, which is we're sort of growing our reach on LinkedIn as well. But just make sure your socials are set up so when people search you, they can easily find your company and see some of your regular stuff. So not stuff that you necessarily have on your website, but just the more recent projects, work that you're, what you're up to at the minute, clients you're working with, that kind of thing. Number 3 is podcasts. So you would have seen at the beginning of this video, I just jumped off a podcast where I was talking to a property entrepreneur about the Property Entrepreneur Hall of Fame. So podcasts are a really, really good medium to get your message out there and get your brand out there and sort of increase your credibility in the space. You can start your own podcast, and there are definitely benefits in having your own podcast. What I would say is, if you've not got an interest in being a podcast host and having a podcast and setting up a business, which is about having a podcast and monetizing it, whether that's through your business or through other stuff specifically on the podcast, I would focus on appearing on other people's. When you start your own podcast, you've got to create your own audience. If you strategically want to do that in life, then that's great and you should definitely go for it. But the best way that I've found is going to appear on other people's podcasts. I'll put some examples up around here of the podcasts that I've been on. I've been on Progressive Property. I've been on Cole Bremner podcast. I've been on Inside Property Investing. I've been on TED Talks. I've been on the Deals podcast. I've been on the Ultimate FD podcast. There's a few others as well that I've been on as well. And they've all been really good in terms of they've got some value out of me telling my story and giving some tips to their audience and their listeners. But also then I've got the reach and the exposure. And actually we've got a few clients that we work with, both as sort of straight investors and also that have bought HMOs in Plymouth through us, that have actually found us initially through listening to a podcast. So it's really, really good if you can tap into other people's audiences through podcasts. That's an amazing thing to do. Number 4 is speaking. So you might think, oh, I'm just starting out, is anyone going to have me on stage to speak? I think it starts with go to a networking event, stand up, introduce yourself, start to speak to people about what you do. And once you get into networks and into communities, you'll find out that actually people are quite desperate to get speakers on stage. It's quite hard to book speakers. There's stuff that you can do via Zoom or you can do it in person. And to be honest, people just want to hear real stories. So even if you've done your first deal, if you've done your 100th deal, there's going to be value in what you're saying. There's going to be people in the room that will value sort of the insights that you've got. Obviously, the more niche you are, the quicker you'll get to a point of being a sort of a subject matter expert. So if you're like, oh, I'm in property in general, then it's going to take you a long time to have enough to talk about that will entertain and educate loads of people that are in property, because it's quite a broad thing. But if you say, oh, well, I'm doing HMOs in Plymouth, and you start to sort of niche on that, then you can obviously go along to a networking event in Plymouth and talk about HMOs, and you're going to become an expert pretty quickly on that kind of stuff. So if you can niche down into specific areas, it will help you get to a position where you can stand on stage and confidently talk about something a lot quicker. So definitely recommend niching. But if you can get any kind of speaking slots, I'd highly recommend it to help increase your brand. Number 5 is newspaper articles. Now I love these. It's just an amazing resource and it's completely free. What you've got to do is you've got to have two things. You've got to have a contact of someone. And most websites, most newspaper websites sort of have a link of like, have you got an interesting story? Send us it on this email. But actually, if you're in a certain area or if you're in a certain industry, so if you're in property or if you're in Plymouth in a certain area, you start to understand who the reporters are that write the stuff and who the editors are and who you need to email and things like that. But to start with, you can just go on the website and it will say, here's a link to send us an interesting story. Now that's the first bit. And the second bit is actually making it interesting. So these people are going to publish your story for free. There's got to be a reason why they would do that. We've had some real success on it from our commercial to residential conversion projects in KHP, because we've taken old, unloved buildings and turned them into amazing apartments. So these buildings have got real history as like what they were before. Like, was it a care home? Was it a hotel? What was it, a school? Like, what was it before and what is it going to be now? And it's a real public interest piece around what you're doing. So try and put a spin on it. It's like, this is a reason why you should publish it. Make it very easy for them. You can basically write the article and send them all the photos that they'll need, and they can sort of edit it and adjust it and pick and choose the photos and add in information as they see fit. But you just get a really, really good reach. One thing to watch out for is you will get a load of negative comments. So, you know, even if you're doing something amazing, you could be building a new hospital in the local area that's much needed, and there would still be some backlash around like, oh, it's in my back garden and things like that. So you just got to have thick skin and be prepared for that. But overall, the reach on newspaper articles is really, really good, and they're free to get published. Another thing I didn't mention in the video is industry magazines. So there's quite a big one in property called Your Property Network, YPN. We've been featured in that 2 or 3 times. Again, it's free to get featured in it. You've got to have something interesting you want to say. They also have sort of editorial spots for regular contributors who write blogs and who write interesting articles about specific niches on a regular basis. So that's another good one either to do as just a one-off. We've done 2 or 3 one-off pieces about our projects and businesses, or try and get a slot as a regular contributor. Number 6 is awards. So we've been pretty successful with this in KHP. We've won the Property Investors Awards for best HMO deal over 6 rooms, and we also won the Crowd Property Award for Project of the Year. Both of those were for our Wyndham Hall project in Plymouth, and actually both in the same year, weirdly, in 2020. We've had other nominations in previous years in other categories, Developer of the Year, Deal of the Year, that kind of stuff, I think the previous year or the previous 2 years for the Property Investors Awards. So really, really encourage everyone to apply for awards. Some awards you can apply for, some you need someone to nominate you. Really, really encourage you to spend a bit of time on the application process. It's usually free or very cheap to enter these awards ceremonies, or you have to buy a table or something as part of the deal. But real rubber stamp of approval, really good for your brand if you can win the award, and even just being sort of shortlisted as a finalist can be really, really good for your brand. And obviously when you get a nomination, if you make the finals, or if you win, you obviously put that then on your website, on your brochure, on your social media. You can talk about it on social media and everything like that. So yeah, awards is a really good one. And finally, number 7, there we go, is email lists. So emails are not dead. So we've got a really good open rate on our emails, and we've also got pretty good click-through rate in terms of clicking on the various links that we have in there. So we've got our YouTube channel, and then when we send our email newsletter out, we'll have links out to the latest YouTube video, and links out to our latest developments and stuff like that. So highly recommend doing email. The tricky bit with email is just making sure you've got a flow of new people coming in. So if you don't have new people coming onto your email list, then it's going to get quite stagnant. It'll be going out to the same people. Your sort of open rates and your click-through rates are going to be quite low. So you just need to make sure, whether it's you're posting on social media, or whether you're doing a newspaper article, whether you're doing just normal social media stuff or YouTube, or if you're out networking, like however you do it, you've got to be collecting email addresses and adding them to your email list, or getting that automatically opted in through some marketing you're doing, or physical like one-on-one stuff that you're doing when you're speaking to people. So make sure you keep your email lists nice and fresh, but they can be a really, really good resource for enhancing your brand. So thank you for watching. That was my 3 reasons why having a strong brand in property is important, and 7 ways to improve yours. I hope you found some value from the video. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments, or drop me an email. I'll put my email address in the description as well, and we'll see you on the next video.